Hey Bills Mafia, this is Jake. I'm the producer on the Wandering Buffalo podcast. Just wanted to throw a quick disclaimer out. We do not mention Ken Dorsey in this podcast in terms of his firing because the podcast was recorded before it happened. So just wanted to throw a quick disclaimer out and enjoy the show.
Buffalo Bills fall to 5-5 on the season with one of the most embarrassing losses in my recent memory. We're going to be breaking that down on this week's episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast.
You are now listening to the Wandering Buffalo podcast with your hosts, Justin Goddard and Andrew Chang.
Bills Mafia, welcome into a dreary podcast this week. Bills falling to 5-5 on the season with just an utterly embarrassing loss. I want to apologize off the top here. I'm not feeling really great this morning. A little bit headache, sore throat. Got to power through this one. It's not the podcast I was hoping that we'd be doing today. And truth be told, I mean, even if the Bills managed to scrape a win out of that game, are any of us really feeling much better today? I mean, a win's a win. I know end of the year we're not going to be talking about how they happened, but is there any world where the Bills deserve to win that game at all last night? I mean, just one of the most embarrassing performances that I can remember in particular under this McDermott era. Just so many discipline issues, so much sloppy football. When they keep talking about complimentary football, like this is as far from complimentary as you can get. And I don't even look at the complimentary as, you know, the offense has to control the game to protect the defense, any of that. For me, complimentary is just like all three phases doing their jobs together to get a win. Last night we saw the defense give absolutely everything they had to continue giving the offense opportunities. The offense looked terrible. Some flashes in there like we've seen in the previous few weeks, which makes it even more frustrating because they just, you know, have all these drives where they're terrible and then they just snap it together and it's, you know, a 7-play 80-yard drive that takes a minute and it looks like they did nothing to do it, no effort, and then, you know, the rest of the game they just kind of lackadaisical, all that. Special teams had a pretty rough game out there. Sam Martin continues to struggle with some punts. Kick coverage, punt coverage, not great. This was another game where the field position battle just seemed like every drive the Broncos were starting at like the plus 40 territory. And I mean, honestly, for as depleted as this defense is, you're talking, we have Rasul Douglas getting all the snaps at CB1. He's been in the building for like a week. You know, just all the injuries they have, the huge injuries. And to keep this game winnable with everything that happened, hats off to the defense. It was just kind of squandered, you know. So we started off the game, first play of the game, James Cook fumble that we lose. Defense stands on its head. You know, they only allow 3 points, but the ball didn't really move. They did pretty much all they could. We follow that up with, you know, the very next play. It was damn near a Josh Allen interception. We almost started out the game with 2 plays, 2 turnovers. Threw an ill-advised ball, and, you know, fortunately, I believe it was a linebacker. Just wasn't able to get the second foot down and bounce. But I mean, it was a very turnover-worthy play. We see the turnover on the exchange between Josh Allen and James Cook. The drop from Gabe Davis. You know, just going right through his hands. And I know that's a missile of a ball coming to him. But I mean, that ball hits both his hands, goes directly through it, and leads to another interception. That one when the Bills were kind of in position to be getting into talking touchdown territory. Just sloppy all around on offense. There was some frustrating aspects of the players' execution. Just talked about the Gabe Davis drop. Also had, a rare Dalton Kincaid drop that ended a drive. Steph Diggs had a drop in there. Just all around super sloppy on the offensive side of the ball. Like I said, the defense gives us a chance to win it. So basically where I'm at right now is, the last few weeks I've been really pushing back on the everybody needs to get fired train. And, for the last kind of since the Jacksonville game, we've had these stretches where the offense puts it together and a lot of it looks, so close, and there's an inopportune turnover or, a decent drive, but they're consistently starting like inside their own 15 and just not able to finish off drives. So I've kind of been feeling like it's so close, like firing everybody's not the move. And after this game, I don't know if I'm just still super frustrated. Tried sleeping on this one, calm myself down a little bit. But I'm starting to move towards that camp, and I just don't see it as likely during the season. Of course, by the time this comes out, maybe something will have happened. I just don't see there being any changes made in particular until the Bills would officially be eliminated from playoff contention, just with the team they have. But there were some really frustrating moments with Dorsey. I mean, between James Cook and Latavius Murray, pretty much throughout the whole night, they're averaging 8 yards a carry. I'm never going to be one that sits on this podcast and advocates for like 50 runs in a game. But if there was ever a game to do it, that would have been a good one to really keep feeding the running backs. Which, I don't want the team to ever like fully move away from passing. You do have Josh Allen, great quarterback, but he was struggling, and I believe it was right out of halftime. They came out and threw 3 consecutive plays, went 3 and out, punted the ball back to Denver, and that's just, it's just so frustrating that you're not getting at least one carry in there, where these running backs are averaging 8 yards a carry. Maybe you get yourself into a 2nd and 4, 3rd and 2 type of situation, instead of these, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10s that we keep seeing. It's just, to me, it's been so dichotomous with this season of, when the run's not working, we keep running our head into the wall. When the run is successful, we don't stick to it. Very frustrating. I got to put some of that on Dorsey. I think there was a lot of player execution issues in this game. I haven't even talked about the second worst series in the game. Right before halftime, the Bills defense gives up a field goal to Denver. Did some clock managing. Okay, we're going to get the ball back. There's about 45 seconds left. Maybe we'll go down the field, get a field goal back ourselves. Nope. Throw an interception. They get the ball. And instead of, giving yourself a chance to get points before the half, you set the Broncos up for not just a double dip opportunity, but a triple dip opportunity. I can't tell you the last time I've seen that happen in a game. It just penalties, sloppiness. I just don't know how we get to the point where we're not talking about if there has to be changes in the coaching staff. It's unfortunate that it feels like a lot of player execution. These coaches can't go on the field and make the plays. But at the same time, the discipline, the penalties, the sloppiness, that all comes right from the top. And we're talking there was easily another 2 turnovers that could have happened in this game. The first one I already talked about. Josh Allen on the second play of the game almost throws an interception. Towards the end of the game, James Cook, breaks free, running. He looks like nobody's going to catch him and just kind of drops the ball. And this was like, a bounce that was finally going our way. There's been so many bounces that didn't go our way. Ball bounces right back into his hands. But there's another turnover-worthy play on a night that we already had 4 turnovers. I mean, there's not many teams in the NFL you're going to have much of a chance beating with 4 turnovers. I mean, the defense gave you 1 back in the form of a turnover, so you're only -3 on the turnover battle. But that's just kind of how it appears on the stat sheet. If you're watching the game, that defense bailed out the offense over and over and over again. I mean, we're talking Denver getting the ball at the 40-yard line midfield, and the defense, not just stopping them, but getting a sack in there, stopping a run behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, they had multiple drives where Denver's getting the ball like midfield, and they come away with no points because the defense just bucked up and stopped them. And I feel like this has been kind of the trend that I've been seeing, and I called it last night as it happened. I told my wife sitting on the couch, I was like, this is what's been happening in these games. The offense is just kind of muddling through the game and not complimenting the defense, giving them some points for what they're doing. And then the offense comes alive like in the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden we got a game. And then we need that one more stop from our defense, and they don't have it in them anymore. They've already given you like 8-9 stops. Some of these situations where they're holding them to a field goal when it very easily could have been a touchdown. I mean, I'm counting those as stops too. The one touchdown that they give up to Cortland Sutton, it goes against the defense, but that was also just an absolute freak play. Getting sick of seeing these happen to us. But I mean, Russell Wilson just kind of almost looks like he's throwing it away, and that ball goes exactly to where only Sutton can get it. He makes a great move getting his feet down. Just a great touchdown. Not too much I can blame the defense for on that one. Just all around, super frustrating game. And I haven't even gotten to the worst part of it yet. I'm going to save that for after the break, so stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Dick DeGroat, Bill's dad. Now back to the show.
Welcome back into the show, and thank you for joining me on this week's episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast. If you haven't done so yet and you've made it this far, I do ask that you give me a like, share, subscribe, tell a friend about it. I know for me, podcasts are going to be harder to listen to this week. Just the compiling of losses. It's the season is just so frustrating and becoming so unfun. And the past few years, I've just tried to kind of enjoy the ride of, maybe you'll win the championship, maybe you won't, but having a good team and, being in the conversation. For how long we just fucking sucked. It's been fun to be, just enjoying like the last 4 or 5 years of, being in the conversation. The way things are going this year, it's just becoming very unfun to watch this team because we know what their capabilities are. We've seen them just absolutely lighting teams up in the past. So it's just really frustrating. And then the way this game ends is just, this is where I start getting into the, do we have to start looking at McDermott? McDermott in particular, I don't see there being a change mid-season. But I'm looking at this and it's just this catalog he's been building over a fairly short tenure as a coach. When we year 5, of just these really, really dramatic ways of losing. And I started counting these up last night, and I'm sure I'm missing some. But we get into 13 seconds. Hail Murray, the Justin Jefferson play, this one last night, couple this year. That Giants game really could have easily gone the other way. Just building this catalog of super dramatic losses, and at a certain point, like, I don't know who to put that on other than the coaching staff. And this one last night, I'm watching this, final drive of the game happen, and sitting on the couch, I texted my brothers, couple group chats I'm in. I'm like, you know what? This is going to come down to a game-winning field goal attempt by Denver. Like, we don't deserve to have won this game in the least. But the silver lining was their kicker. He already doinked one in the game. Two of the field goals he made were just squeaked through the pipe. If it was like, another yard or two further, they're probably not going in. So I'm sitting here saying, you know what? We have no business winning this game. But hey, if it comes down to a game-winning kick, I wouldn't have a ton of faith in Will Lutz right now. And comes down to it, they set up for the game-winning field goal. They're even, doing the kneel down, saving clock, out of timeouts. They have to sprint their field goal unit onto the team. They can't stop the clock. Just the running clock field goal. And they miss it. We won the game. We won a game that we have no business winning. And then you see the flag on the field. And, I'm thinking, what did we get? One of these, horse shit, hit the center, used them for leverage type plays. You see those kind of happen more in an urgent situation, short field goal for the game being on the line. Players, try to do that little extra to get a field goal block. Nope. 12 men on the field. It's just something that you can't make up. I mean, you're playing against a team in Denver, 3-win team, that they have to trot on their field goal unit, for a game-winning attempt, and their operation super clean. Offense right off the field, kicking team back on. They had something like 17 seconds to work with. They were set up and ready to go by 11 seconds. On the other side, you look at the Bills, and it looks like defenders don't know who's supposed to be coming off the field. They're scurrying. There's confusion, and we end up with 12 players on the field. I mean, this whole possession leading you to there. I mean, the Broncos are taking the knee to kill clock. You have this whole series knowing that it's going to end with they're going to run down the clock as much as they can, and they're going to have an on-the-fly field goal attempt. You knew that. I knew that. Everybody in the stadium knew that. We weren't ready. And that, to me, is what pushes this, one step closer to just the unacceptable. Some of these losses, I can chalk up to, defense is super banged up. You're, waiting for the next man up to kind of, get back to a similar level. There is an adjustment period. Trade deadline, bringing in Rasul Douglas is some help because you lost Trey White. Adding Linval Joseph in free agency, and he's playing significant steps and looking pretty good. Some of these losses, like I said, you dealt with just a myriad of the worst possible injuries you could have on defense in Milano, Daquan Jones, and Trey White. That's like the three top people you couldn't lose from this defense, and they went down like consecutive weeks. If we lost this game because the defense couldn't stop another team, it'd still be frustrating, especially being the Broncos, which, they're a 3-win team, but they're They're not the same team that we saw the Dolphins absolutely schmack. They've kind of been ascending, but still a team that you should have beaten. Like I said, if it was the defense that cost us this game, super frustrating. I would get it to an extent, being that we can't finish off a game with all of these opportunities that were given to the offense. That's unacceptable in itself for me. And then just the final series there of not being. I don't even care if you have your, kick coverage on the field. Leave your same 11 defenders out there. They're kicking a field goal. We're not going to have a fake field goal with time expiring when they need 3 points. Or what do they? I think they needed 2 points at the time, whatever it was. We're not going to see some sort of crazy fake. Just leave your 11 guys from defense on the field and just line up for the field goal. Anything would be better than have 10 people out there. The fact that game on the line, last play that you need to execute to come out of this game at home with a win you had no business getting, to fuck that up, there's got to be more accountability than, we'll go back and look at the tape. We need to play with more urgency. All these lines that we keep hearing. There's got to be something that changes. And I don't know that we're going to see that. Who knows? Maybe we get a firing this week and it's, special teams. Not what anybody's looking for. Not going to make us feel any better, but special teams was rough today. Maybe special teams is the reason we had 12 men on the field. Maybe it wasn't McDermott. But this goes right back to the 13 seconds type of conversation for me. There's no way that the last play of the game, McDermott doesn't have his hand in what's going on. And like I said, I've been keeping this fire everybody stance at bay for 3-4 weeks now. At this point, I'm still not sure I want McDermott to go. But if I saw it, I don't think I'd be surprised. And maybe it's a breath of fresh air. Maybe it's a change that we need. Because this team is severely underperforming. Just for what the expectations are. And yeah, like I said, I don't see it as likely that they're going to make sweeping changes while there's still, a possibility of making the playoffs. I think we dropped to like 30% chance to make the playoffs after last night, which is actually kind of higher than I expected at this point. But I mean, when you look at what the remaining schedule is and losses that we've already taken, games that went down to the wire that just shouldn't have. I mean, does a game last night give you any more confidence? Even if we come away with that one with a win and we're sitting at 6-4 right now, does a game like last night give you any confidence down the stretch? A game like the Giants give you any confidence? Losing to the Patriots, they can't even decide if Mac Jones is going to finish a game. That we gave Mac Jones like a career day this year. And 2-3 weeks later, there's New England has a chance at a game-winning drive, and they bench Mac Jones because he's so bad that with 2 minutes left, they want to try Bailey Zappi and see if that works. Who also throws an interception. I mean, these are the caliber teams that we're hanging in there with, and I'm not even including the Jets. That was just an absolutely atrocious game. But the Jets defense has been giving all kinds of teams fits this year. They've taken down a lot of good teams. So I'm going to leave them out of this mix because they have a very good defense that's keeping them in games. As frustrating as that loss is, I can kind of understand that one more than these other games that we've had. And when I'm just looking at the stretch run here of teams that we have left to play, not to mention this game was another loss in the AFC. I'm getting last week last week I declared that I'm not slapping the panic button. I probably should have slapped it last week. I tend to try to stay kind of measured in the middle. I think that leads to a little bit too much optimism at times, but the panic button is fully pushed right now. And I have a hard time seeing how this team makes the playoffs. Because, I mean, last week I talked about you got maybe, 2, maybe 3 losses that you can afford to take on the rest of the season. And that's depending on how a lot of other games go. And he gave one up to Denver. And, a loss is a loss. It counts the same, all that. But when I'm looking at, having Kansas City coming up, Dallas, Philly, Jets team that you've already lost to, a Patriots team you already lost to, Miami, who's, they've been kind of up and down, but they're leading the division right now. Of all the games that you could have lost down the stretch run, I don't think Denver was one you could afford to give up just with the talent of the teams coming in. I sure hope I'm wrong. Maybe, they keep talking about this is the wake-up call we needed. This is the wake-up call we needed. The same shit every week. Maybe this is the wake-up call they needed. Maybe they win out on the season. I don't see it as likely, and we're in a position where this feels very, very drought era where, we're in the beginning of November, the season feels over, and I'm getting damn close to, thinking about the offseason and the draft and what we can do to improve this team. And maybe that involves, some coaching changes. At this point, I've loved McDermott as a coach and what he's done for this organization over the last, 5 or so years. If this season ended with a change at head coach, I don't think I would be upset right now. There's just been too many game management issues, too many self-inflicted wounds, lack of discipline. All throughout his tenure, we've had really high missed tackle rates, really high penalty rates. These are all things that they're crushing you. Just ending drives with, penalties backing you up, turnovers, all that. You only get so many possessions in a football game, and half of them last night we gave right back to the Broncos. So I don't really know where we go from here. Maybe this week, I know there's a huge contingent of Bills Mafia that wants Dorsey gone 2 weeks ago. Maybe we see a change this week. And I wouldn't be opposed to that. Maybe, it gives us a different spark. But I mean, who are you promoting to that spot mid-season? Is it Joe Brady? You're not installing a whole new offense. So all you'd really be looking for is, some different play calling and a spark. Maybe that's the answer. I sure as hell at this point would be willing to try really almost anything. Because the talent that we have on that offensive side of the ball only got better from last year. And the results just aren't there. And I got nothing else. Something's got to change, and we'll see what happens this week. I feel much more confident that they're going to take this into the bye week. And if we win the next 2 games, I don't think you're going to see any changes. If you lose one of the next 2 games, I could see some changes coming out of the bye week. Give everybody that extra week to adjust to things, figure things out. Woke up this morning kind of hoping that we'd see some changes, and the more I'm sitting here, the more I think, and we got 2 weeks until the bye. I don't see them pulling the trigger on anything before then. So we'll see what happens. Taking on the Jets next. Obviously, like I said, team we already lost to this year. Doesn't make me feel great that they got a stellar defense and a suspect offense, because our defense for the most part hasn't been the problem. So, slowing down the Zach Wilson offense. Hopefully it shouldn't be too tall of a task, but our offense trying to get right against that defense, it just feels like a tall task. This should be a game that I go into crazy optimistic and, plan on the defense holding the Jets to like 10 points. And does our offense get to 13 points against that defense? I don't know at this point. So, yep, sitting here today with a little bit of, existential dread, feeling like we're in the drought again. This honestly right now, granted I'm quite a few years removed from the drought, this feels way worse to me than a lot of those, season crushing drought games, just because we had so little expectations, and every year we would, this is our year, and we'd convince ourselves of that, but did we ever really believe it? We're Trent Edwards, JP Lossman, Kevin Cobb, Kyle Orton, EJ Manuel, all of these, I'm just naming the quarterbacks. If I'm honest, in hindsight, that was just thinking it was our year all those years was just, kind of something we started saying. And if I'm honest about it, there's never really much belief in too many of those teams. This team is very different. We've had success. We've gone to the AFC Championship game. We've been knocking on the door, and this offseason we made all the investments on the offensive side of the ball. We brought in, second round lineman, brought in McGovern, drafted a first round weapon in Kincaid. Just all of these moves, and for the offensive side of the ball to be the one that can't get it together. If I had the answers, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair, I guess. So we'll see what happens this week as we look forward to the Jets. I do appreciate you joining me, even when, the episodes are gloom and doom and not as much fun. Still hoping that this team can get on track, but losing confidence in droves every week. So we'll touch base again sometime next week around this time after we take on the Jets. Hopefully we finally get to talk about a good convincing win. Maybe get this team feeling like it's back on track to make a nice stretch run here. But until then, thank you for joining me on this week's episode. As always, go Bills.